Welcome, everybody, to the new launched Toddle office hours. I'm very used to having like applause buttons to press when I'm doing stuff like this. So it feels like maybe I need to sort something like that out. Welcome. How are we doing? Where is? Yes, there you are. Hello.
Oh,
Welcome. How are you doing?
good, good. How
Good.
are you?
Yes, the weather is glorious, and that always makes me feel better. Andreas, welcome. Oh, he's gone again, as usual.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Good. So today we are going to be splitting up the session into 4 sections. Number 1, Toddle Showcase, where we'll learn from Kedde about the Toddle API. Number 2, Lucas will tell us about the Lyghtbox project that he's built in Toddle. He's not here yet, is he? Can't see him. And some of the problems that he solved building in Toddle with his app. Thirdly, I'm going to share an article that I found on the internet about a different way to approach building website navigation menus, and then we'll take a general Q&A to wrap up the whole session. Does that sound like a good idea, everybody? Yes. Okay. So, yeah, you see, we need the applause, don't we? That's what we need. I'll try and sort that out. So, first off, take it away, Kidda. Tell us what you're going to tell us, and I might interject with some questions.
Yeah, please do. I just wanted to briefly show and talk about how we built the Toddle API. So it doesn't do that much. It doesn't have that many endpoints, but I mean, Toddle uses a few different backends, such as Supabase for most of our database needs. We also use ClickHouse, for example, for analytics, events and stuff. Some of these can be, connected to directly from the front end, but some we need our own API. So we are building that. We built some, and it will continue to expand as we need new features. One way that, and I think I kind of underestimated that when I started building, but one way to integrate with your API through Toddle is through using services. And I want to show how we build our API so we can actually use the services in Toddle, in the Toddle editor, to work more efficiently. And the reason for that is that, for example, if you're not that technical, but you do have some very back-endy developers sitting and developing your API, they can build the endpoints, and then the person that will use it could be a designer, because Toddle is great for designers as well. It could be that they need this endpoint. So by building it and using the open API spec, which is also formerly known as Swagger, but as a way of documenting the API, well, the developer in Toddle, maybe the designer, can easily use that, because Toddle will read the spec and try to help you out as much as possible. So the way we do that is, I can maybe start by saying our API is using the Hono framework. It's a lightweight framework for exactly that. It runs great in Cloudflare, which is where we host the API. And by using Hono, and actually I might just start sharing my screen. I will share some code with you. So I'm gonna share this. So how is it readable? Do I need to zoom in?
Can you zoom in, please?
I always get that. Is it better?
Thank you.
Oh, it's
One
very
more,
large,
one
but
more. Yeah, but it has to be large
I
for
can do
you.
like There we go.
Perfect.
So Hono has made some nice middleware help for us. In this case, they made an open API library that you can use. In this case, we're using SOD, so we're using the SOD Open API library. And then we set up our.
First of all, briefly, let's just cover what Zod does.
So SOD is basically a way to create schemas and validate those schemas for you. So it could be that in your API, and I can show it down here, we have some query parameters, and SOD in this case is just called set. We'll tell SOD, well, this query parameter is an object, and in that object there is a key that's called hero, and this hero key can has the value of that's an enum, so one of the values within this array. So it can be Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman in this case. So what SOD does for you is that when it gets a request in, it will validate this request. And I'll show you that in a minute as well, that it will actually tell you if you are missing a query parameter or if there's something missing in anywhere else. In this case, I told SOD that this hero has to be there. I could also make it optional if I wanted to. In that case, it wouldn't fail if it wasn't there, right? But I'm gonna make it required. Yeah, so by doing this, creating the SOD schema for it, tell it how is everything going to look, how is the response gonna look. We will actually have Hono create the route for us, and we are also, and you can see that in the index file, we are also using the Swagger UI, which is a different library also made by Hono. So we can just show, have like a page where you can browse through that has a nice UI that you, if you worked with APIs that use Swagger, it's quite nice. You can click through and you can try it out, the different endpoints from there as well. So that is basically what we do here. When we do this for every route that we make, we have this schema, and then we have some actually the handler. So this is basically where all the request is happening. In this case, I can get the hero parameter out from our query path, and by using the valid, this is actually also something Hono helps us with. It will make sure that we have type safety. So we're using TypeScript, and yeah, it knows that, well, this hero can be one of these values, just because I actually defined it up here, right? So it's quite nice for when you're just a developer. And yeah, I just look up. I have a secret hero identities library, so I can look up who is actually the hero. So that will, and I will just switch, change stream. Can I do that somehow? I'll stop sharing and share my browser instead. I will share this one. Share this window. So I am just working on localhost right now because this is actually not an endpoint we want to commit. So now that I added it, it is actually just added to our API. So this is the Swagger UI. You will see this is the endpoint I added. It has everything I need to know about it. I can try it out, and I can choose which value I want to add in the query parameter, and it will tell me what I can get back. I can get a 200. Actually, this 401 is wrong. I'm never returning 401, so I should remove that. And the type I'm getting back, and that's it. What toddle needs is not this UI, but actually the JSON format, which is located here. So that looks like this, just a long JSON schema, basically, and it's using the OpenAPI 3. spec, toddle also supports OpenAPI 2. And to use that, I will add a service. And I do that. So this is just a completely empty new project. Actually, it's not new, but I haven't used it for anything, so I'm going to use it for this. And then I can add, I'm going to add a custom API. It's going to call it toddle API. And then we have our, the base URL is the URL where every endpoint needs to connect to. So that's just the root of our API. And then we need a docs URL, which is where we find the JSON. So I'm just going to copy that, and we check the connection established. I can just make this, actually, I cannot at the moment. Should we call it API URL? A global formula, always nice to do. The benefits of that is that any API that's using this service will, instead of having this base URL hard-coded, it will point to, let's just save it. It will point to the global formula that's now here, which contains the base URL. So that means I can actually change the base URL for any API using this service by just changing this formula.
So I've just had a bit of a light bulb moment because, as you all know, I'm still learning how to use Toddle. So you just added a service with like a base URL, which you can then use that service in the API panel, right?
Correct.
So for example, on my website right now, on my homepage, I'm using the Contentful API to get some data, and I've just added that as a straight API. But what I should do is add Contentful as a service and then be able to reuse that in different API panel things.
Correct. The only requirement here is that the service you're using, so in this case, in your case, Contentful, is that they have a Swagger documentation. So a requirement for adding a service is that there is an actual documentation, and we actually we do validate that. So if I had a URL, and maybe this URL would actually be valid, but it does look, and how it validates is that it looks for this specific line up here. So the Open API field, and then checks, is it a version of the Open API spec that we support? So that's a requirement at the moment for adding a service.
Adding an Open API service.
Correct, yeah. And I mean, everything that we have, so we do support. We have Superbase and Sano as well. They also have Open API specs, which is why they are here, right? I'm sure there are many others that does. And since we are making our own, we figured, well, let's have our own as well. So that means I can now go to add my API, and instead of having to create an empty API or just paste the URL, I have all the endpoints here. So these are all the endpoints that I located on the local host, right? And here is my endpoint for the office hours demo. So I can click that, and then it already fills out the URL. It actually also adds the hero parameter because it's required.
I need the applause button for that. That's excellent.
And if there was some authentication on this, it would also add an authentication header. I think we have some other endpoints. So, for example, the auth session. Well, that does require the authorization, which has this format, right? So if I added that endpoint, well, you would see it actually already added an authorization header, and it does its best guess to which cookie you want to add. Usually it's the access token, and so yeah, it adds this formula for you. Similarly, if it's a post request, it will add the so in this case, for example, it's a post request, so it also has a body. In this case, I haven't updated it. It's actually a different content type than JSON. But if it was JSON, for example, it would actually try to add as much of the body as it possibly can for you. So you just have to fill out the values, but it tries to add the structure for you. So in the case of my demo API here, now that we use sort for validation, and we haven't filled the parameter hero in with any value, it tells us, well, I expect one of these values, but I got an undefined. So before it even runs your code, it does this validation for you, and it just sends back an error to you. So I could, for example, fill this in and say Batman, which is one of those that I expect. And wouldn't you know, it's actually me. Now, of course, no one knows who Batman is, but it could be me, right? So yeah, that's kind of one nice thing that I would like to do at some point. Is in this case there are only 3 available values, right? So we could even allow the editor to read that and suggest for you what can you fill in to this query parameter. That's not created at the moment, but could be nice. And yeah, let's see who Superman is. Maybe it's actually Andreas, who should have known. And lastly, Wonder Woman. Any guesses?
Oh, Grace Hopper.
No, it's you. And you're a superstar.
Thank you. And what a great way to end that little section.
Isn't it?
If you are finished. Yeah, thank you.
I am finished.
If anyone has any questions, we have 2 minutes to take them before we invite Lucas for the next. So I am always blown away by some of the integrations that are available in the technology world and things that make it easier for developers to just build stuff. And that Swagger stuff, we've had some good appreciation for Swagger in the chat. I've used Swagger before as well. And as a front-end dev and a tech lead in previous jobs, something like that was actually really useful for the back-end devs to scaffold out before the front-end devs were using it. So even if the databases weren't hooked up and the data wasn't really there, front-end devs could still start planning out their UIs because they have the structure of the data. So it's really, really useful.
And I think when Andreas got the idea that we should use the Swagger documentation or the Open API spec to kind of, help out in the editor, I thought, well, that's probably a good idea. And then I saw it working, and I was kind of blown away as well how easy it actually was to work and collaborate with your teammates when building an API and maybe someone else implementing and using it, right?
Just like the toddle UI bridges the gap between like front-end devs or devs and designers, then the Swagger kind of system bridges the gap between back-end and front-end as well. I love it. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to invite Lucas on for the community showcase, and Lucas is going to, how do I make him speak? Invite to speak. I'm going to get Lucas up to talk about Lyghtbox built in Toddle, and I'm very interested in some of the problems that Lucas described in the form that he filled out. And also, I have to say, after speaking to you via chat only, Lucas, for the last few weeks, it's great to speak to you in person.
Likewise. Of course, the first thing that people start saying, like, oh, we finally get to see his face.
Oh, and I have to, if you don't know, in the audience, Lucas is our first official open source contributor to Toddle as well, which is a huge, huge accolade. So again, applause button needed. Thank you, Lucas. Right, take it away. Tell us about Lyghtbox.
Lyghtbox is a project that started out like actually very close to when I first joined Toddle, like a little over a year ago. As for many companies, like the way a lot of CRMs and stuff like that get started is the current solutions out there don't quite fit the needs of the business, so they just start making an internal one, and then eventually they say, let's just put it out there and see if people also want to use this. The same thing happened for us. My wife and I run a photography business. She's the main one that fulfills that work, but still involved in it in the tech and the marketing side of things. That's kind of like my main background, I guess, before we went into our own. And so like it just started an idea, like a what if, started playing around. actually showed Andreas like my very first iteration of it, like over a year ago, back when I first started, because he was like, "Who are you? Why are you answering all these help threads? Like, how do you know so much about Toddle? How long have you been using it?" And the reason why, I got to learn is because I was building my own little project on the side. That's how it started. Put it on pause for a few months actually, and then got back to building it like around August of last year. And since then, I've made some pretty good progress, and we're actually using it internally. And we've also now opened it up to a handful of other businesses for them to try to use it as well, like get feedback, see what they think.
Great.
I can showcase some of
Yes,
the
let's
platform as
have a
well.
look. I also, when I first saw the site, I was very impressed at how beautiful it was. And
That's
I would
just a
expect.
simple marketing site, actually. It's not even the actual product.
Ah,
Wait a second. I guess I'll share my whole window. Can you see it?
yeah.
It's not letting me choose
Yeah,
a specific window, but that is not it. All right. Can you guys see this?
can only see Discord, and you are sharing sound as well.
One sec. It's not letting me showcase or it's not letting me choose.
Oh, it's so bad when you share your screen on Discord. You have to like hover over the thing when you've clicked
Oh, that's it.
share.
So make selection.
Yes, and then you
There you
find
go.
your thing, and there you go.
It works differently when you're in the voice channel.
Yes.
Don't know why. But okay, when you're in the stages, it works. Okay, can you see this screen now?
Yes.
Okay, this is the actual the site you were referring to is this one, which
Yes.
was also built in Toddle. Great experience, by the way, because I built like API integrations for all the marketing servers, like for like Meta and stuff like that. Never had better conversion rates than when running ads. When I ran it to this page. Just as a side note, Total is great for marketing websites. This is the platform right now. This is one of my dev branches. Just like some demo projects where I test some stuff out. The main idea of it is one of the things like we wanted to have different pipelines because our previous CRM didn't have that. So we have the option to select different ones with their own stages. I wanted to be able to see everything, also to have different views of them. If I wanted to have a Kanban view with drag and drop, wanted to have a calendar view so I could see all the different projects where they're happening. This is all like very basic, but it's all built in Toddle. No external libraries, no nothing. It's all native. We can of course send email. We can create contracts. We can create invoices, everything, and it's all built in Toddle. No external libraries. The only library that I'm using right now for this is the text editor. This is the Quill package. Just because I didn't want to make my own text editor, but other than that,
It's like making your own markdown parser, isn't it?
potentially worse. There are so many edge cases that I've came across that I wouldn't even thought about. Just like when selecting a word, if you select part of it and part of it is bold, part of it is not, and you want to unbold, how do you want to manage that? Like, little stuff like that may just make me just not want to make my own.
One of the things
yeah.
that you mentioned in your form for submission was time zones and scheduling, because I noticed you showed the calendar view. So I want you to tell us a bit about that.
Time zones are a pain in the ass. This branch doesn't have it open, but I can maybe show it in here. Because I made a schedule because one of the things that we do is they call like mini session days. Basically, we're photographers. They, let's say, book a studio or a sunflower field, whatever it may be, and they book sessions back to back. So it's kind of like using Calendly, right? But essentially, you can go through. I don't think I can show it on this. Yeah. So, for example, when somebody wants to book in, when we fill a date, if somebody is in, if somebody books or a consultation call, which you can also book with this, if somebody books in and they're in a different time zone, then how to manage display in the time zone. So basically, the main way that I solve that for now is to just save it in an ISO string, basically ISO 8603, whatever it's called. And then I have to run some functions to then convert the time to that user's current time zone when they're seeing it. So it all has to happen. For now, it's happening just with JavaScript and in the browser. So it's just I just have a kind of function to do the conversion. But I might have to either use date.fns, which is an external library, or hold out to see if I can use the temporal API that's coming to JavaScript. When that comes around, I think that'll make things a whole lot easier to manage. But for now, managing time is a pain when creating like bookable events. Yeah. So like yeah, basically I just have like a widget. I don't think this one has like an event I can pull because I don't have an event for it created. But essentially we have like the main calendar here. When somebody chooses a date, they'll get this time selection out here, and this fills in with times based on what you chose in the event creation. And yeah, that was the main calendar itself was relatively easy to create, but then creating the actual time zone management, that was an extra pain.
You account for leap years.
Do I
Are you
count?
using an
No,
API? I guess JavaScript will know about those, won't they?
yeah, basically right now it's just a very simple conversion from the 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 ISO timestamp to current user's time zone, which you can do with a custom action just to get the whatever locale they're in or time zone. You can get both. Not the most accurate because that's just browser client side. But yeah, so JavaScript, okay solution. Use date.fns or something like that if you need like a more in-depth integration, which you can easily use with toddle as well.
If you could move some of the date stuff eventually to a backend that uses edge functions potentially to get.
I use Cloudflare workers. That's the main thing I use for backend integration stuff. I would put the library on there, and then basically all that would change is right before loading. It would just call to convert the time zones, and then that would do it. That's the implementation I was likely going to do. I just never got around to it. Didn't have a huge need because right now we're using it locally anyway, so it's not a big deal for time zones for us right now. So,
And I wanted to touch on one more thing that you wrote on your form. You mentioned the form and questionnaire builder, and the question that you posed is how much customization is really needed?
Yeah, so I have a form builder that somebody can go through and build their own forms. Maybe I can just. And this one was an interesting one because when building a form builder, you have to like you have to keep in mind how technical your audience is, how much customization do they want. Now for photographers and creatives, they want things to look pretty, but they also don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of having to set a lot of CSS or manage like columns and all these things. So there's like a fine dance here that I'm still need to tune a little bit, but essentially how much customization do I want to give them as far as, let's say somebody wants to edit this title, and then how many more options do I want to give them beyond just bolding it or making it italic? You know what I mean? So yeah, like
I'd be grumpy and say, no, you can't make it look different. You're going to make it look like how I think it should look. But that's not what photographers want, right?
Exactly. And I found that potentially other people beyond photographers might use this, because we know, for example, some other vendors in the industry, like hairstylists and stuff, they say that they may be interested in using it as well. While it's not built for them, I said, sure, if you want. But again, not exactly like the techie crowd. So I have to kind of, when somebody's, for example, these fields right now, these are just standard like matte fields, and I'm not allowing customizations for them. But if they want to set like a custom field for a text area or whatever it may be, drop down. Right now, all I'm letting them do is set the options and not really customize the fields too much, right? If I want to add an image or a section heading or something, again, how many options do I want to give them? How many, like what? So that's kind of like the dance that I was playing. Like how much, like all of this is built in Toddle, but like how much do I want to allow them to be able to customize was the main thing that I came across. And so far, people are mostly okay with this basic thing, but I know I already have some people saying that they would like to be able to set more colors for their brand, or maybe the way they position a logo, stuff like that. Like you can set the color for things like the button, stuff like that, but that's as far as they can got. So yeah, still playing around to see how much exactly do I want to allow for customizations in this part. This was
That
very interesting build though. It was fun to be able to build this, because then it saves on its own, but then somebody could also then take this and publish it onto their site. It was a fun challenge to build a full-fledged form builder in Toddle.
that is it is impressive. Package when? Form builder package?
We'll see. Maybe.
Because then you'd have to customize that though, wouldn't you, as well? So there's a whole extra level of customization that you'll need and configuration.
Yeah, when it comes to packages is a whole different level. Because I built this for my use case, but the package needs to take on a lot of use cases. So yeah.
Thank you.
That the autosave is working there in the corner, so that's good.
Look at that. Does anybody have any questions for Lucas? I think we could do a whole hour on this project. I think because I keep saying I'm still new to Toddle, and I am still very impressed by. I mean, obviously that's why I joined Toddle, but like the what you can build in it, you can build anything in it, and it's quite incredible. Because I'm trying to process in my mind how you did all this in Toddle, and I can't right now.
I don't have any dependencies on this project other than the Quill package. It's all native Toddle.
Another round of applause for that. I mean, it's brilliant. I think Eric and we've got two people typing in the chat. Do you have a dark mode?
No, themes are, well, I played around with themes, but I decided to scrap it because I knew that there were bonus things coming to the Toddle theme system, so I was waiting on that. But I did play around a little bit with themes, and the farthest that I got with that is just I allowed theme kind of like their space, but I'm not fully gone into fully changing it to be able to change dark mode and stuff. But what I played around with essentially changed the UI. For example, this gray, it changed to whatever accent color they chose, and it was pretty cool. It's not on this branch, but yeah, it is possible.
Nice. So Eric says, impressive stuff. Are you using any redirect rules on API's nerdy face?
I'm using, well, first of all, no, I migrated off of Supabase, so now my main database connection is actually all through custom actions. So I'm doing redirects through callback from a custom action. But I did used to have it on my header. I had a redirect rule where if a user is not logged in, it would automatically redirect to the login. So yes, I was using it until I changed away to custom actions.
It's nice. And Dan asks, now that Spark is out there, are you thinking about implementing it, adding some Spark components potentially? And if yes, why? And if no, why?
It's not a huge concern to me because I've worked on this project long enough where I have a lot of my own components already built. Some like buttons, drop downs. Like this is like a custom select drop down, which I already have set up for the project, and I just themed just like with one attribute in it. The main reason why I do want to incorporate some Spark components and update mine with Spark stuff is because they already did all the work of the accessibility stuff. I have accessibility like on my inputs and on buttons and stuff like that. I have the basics down, but the Spark package just takes it to another level. And I think that's important to have. So it's something that it's work that I need to do anyways. So yeah, I'll probably just, instead of tweaking mine, I'll probably just bring in the Spark One stuff and just update it to my own theme.
Nice. I'm in two minds about whether to use Spark yet, because I want to learn how to do everything myself first. You know what I mean? I think there is a powerful lesson to be taught.
It has a lot built in. So yeah, I would probably use it. I don't see why not. It would save me. I mean, it might likely be an equal amount of work to go in and add whatever actually no, for the so for some of the keyboard stuff, it's just easier to use the Spark One for keyboard navigation stuff.
We have another question from Sean
Sheehan.
Sheehan. Use the package in Toddle, or did you use your own?
No, built them own. This is I made this Kanban. The base of this was from the starter package actually, which I made back just to kind of throw something out there as one of the first packages for to show the community some of the stuff you can do. But that package doesn't have like all the accessibility and all that stuff.
How is your app on Google Lighthouse?
No clue. I never tested the inside of it, but it loads pretty quickly. Like I've never had.
Should we do a live Lighthouse test? Really put you on the spot there, and putting Toddle on the spot too. This is fun.
Desktop, I guess. Well, this is not mobile optimized, so the mobile is going to be.
All right, we'll give you that. We'll give you desktop. Most people aren't managing their photo career on a mobile, really, are they?
No, mobile app is going to be a separate thing. This use this app most like only on desktop right now. Yeah, interested to see what the actual dashboard would have. Oh, there you go.
Not bad.
This is why I need to use the Spark package.
Not bad. Great job. We should do that for every project now.
This is an SPA actually. This is an SPA, and there's all this data. There's WebSockets. So, I mean, yeah, it's doing pretty well.
Not bad. Great job. All right, thank you, Lucas. We're going to move to the next section. Really appreciate you being the first community showcaser and the first Toddle contributor. Round of applause in chat.
This in the near future,
Lucas. Oh yeah, we'll do it.
There's going to be something else that's coming from the Toddle community. It's going to be pretty cool.
We'll do it. Thank you so much. All right. Have a great day. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the show. I am going to try and share my screen now, which never goes well, does it? Okay. So you might have gathered if you've watched my streams or if you know me from before, like I like to do things not the same as everyone else, and I like to do things probably the hard way. But I found a really interesting article the other day that made me think about how I could rebuild my website a bit differently, because I am rebuilding it in Toddle live on stream. And like one of the first things I usually do on a website rebuild, this is the 5th time now, is think about the homepage and how that's going to be structured. And you usually think about what goes at the top. And it's normally the navigation menu, isn't it? And you normally think about, okay, what links do I want? How is it going to behave on mobile? And how is it going to respond? And normally the case is that you see on a lot of websites is that you just have a menu of links visible at all times. And there's probably going to be some drop downs. Maybe there's going to be multi drop downs. Think of the Amazon menu, for example. And I was trying to think about how could I do this differently, and found this article called In Praise of Off-Screen Menus. Now, this is by someone called Jason Bradbury. He works for an agency in the UK called Set Studio, and Piccalilli is the kind of blog that they have, and they get writers on it, and they talk about the web and everything. Really good to follow and to sign up to get the newsletter if you're interested in this kind of stuff. So he says it's fairly accepted that keeping navigation visible is best practice for menu design, and there's a lot of arguments for that. But like a lot of black and white thinking, Jason is not so sure the truth is so cut and dry. And so he wants to make a case for off-screen menus being a better experience in the right context. And I'm trying to think, is this the right context for me? The whole kind of main focus of the article is, do you really need to see a menu of links when you land on a page? For example, is the menu the most important thing, or is the content the most important thing? And we know, like, do you know about the rules of UX? I should have got this image. You know, you'll see the biggest text first, and then you'll read like the next bit and maybe that bit, and then you'll see the top bit last. Often the menu, the small, if it's really small, will be the last thing you see, but it's still like noise. So arguing for keeping the focus on the content, I wanted to show you some examples of off-screen menus that I really that were shared in the article, and I really like them. So you land on this page and you see, don't be noisy, be interesting. You see the whole thing. And yes, you can see there's something going on here with a menu, but like there's nothing to distract you. You kind of, and yes, they've got these little kind of fancy thing down here to like direct you down there. But when you do click on the menu, it's kind of cool. It kind of feels a bit like a print magazine or something, or like something you'd see in an art gallery, or it's definitely, I think there's a big difference between like print designers and web designers and the things that they produce. I remember working in an agency once where a print designer became a web designer, and everything he created in like Sketch and Figma was very, very print orientated, which was very difficult at the time to like create in the UI. And was it appropriate? Was it accessible? Was it right? But I see a lot of these kind of brand sites, agency sites, kind of lean more towards print at the moment, which could like make us think a little bit differently about how we can design websites. Because I think we can get very, very boxed in to think a website needs to have this, and it needs to behave and look like this. And you kind of get very bored with creating the same things over and over again. And these things are very obvious. You can still tab through them as well, I believe. Yeah, you can still, like, they're still keyboard navigable and everything. And I just think it was really, it's a really like interesting way to hide the content that maybe is not needed to be seen right now, but then also provide an interesting way to interact with it. There's another one here as well. This one's quite cool. It's blobs. It's not your standard menu of links, and it kind of feels a bit like a game, especially when the animations kind of play in. And I was thinking about how would not a menu look like on my website, for example. A lot of the time people will land on my website, and it's not going to look like this, my new website at all. A lot of the time they land on it, and this is what you see. They land on a blog. They don't really go to the homepage. They land on a blog first because it's been shared in a newsletter, or it's been shared on social media or whatever. And I was thinking, what if I removed the header, and what would it look like? And maybe there's just a little thing here. Now, it kind of feels like you've got nowhere to go, and you're really, really forced to read the content. And it also looks a little bit more like a PDF, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I want to encourage you to maybe experiment with not doing the default when you're thinking about building pages, because I would never have thought of just removing it's not going to end up like this, but I would never have thought of just removing my header and seeing what it looked like, or seeing maybe how I could reimagine it. It does really, when I look at it, it feels like a PDF, and it's interesting. But if I had something here that then, if you clicked, it like did maybe like some kind of animation and some kind of thing, I don't know. So I'm going to start rebuilding my website tomorrow with rebuilding a website header tomorrow on stream in Toddle, and I'm going to try and make something a bit exciting. I'm not going to just replicate a list of links, and I'm going to see what I come up with and what I can animate and what might come of that. So I'm going to share the link in the chat to this article in case you're interested in reading the full one. I just think it was a really nice way of encouraging us initially with menus, but maybe what else can we reimagine in terms of how we build things in the right context. So it's just some food for thought, really. Obviously, context is important. For example, I don't think it would be appropriate on Lucas's Lyghtbox dashboard to have an off-screen menu, because navigation around that interface, I think, is key to how you manage your business and how you use the app. But for my website, if you're just reading an article, do you need to be shown that? Maybe actually at the end of the page, that is when you see what else is available to do, potentially. But we can experiment with that tomorrow live on stream. The event is on the Discord. A little quick plug for that. But I was quite interested in that. So that's my session of web news, different types of menus, UX. We can have a discussion about that, and we can also now move on to the Toddle Q&A part as well. But I see Dan is typing in the chat as well. Trusty Dan. And I'm excited to see what I could build. So Dan says, why web apps don't have a nav bar on the bottom like a Mac computer? I think it would be great. You know, I have seen actually quite a few people experiment with making websites look like native mobile apps by putting the navigation on the bottom. I can't think of anything that comes to mind right now, but I have seen that. I think it maybe was on a portfolio website or something. But generally they're at the top, aren't they? They're a hamburger at the top. And there is something to be said for keeping expectations consistent across the web in some form. But I also think like maybe it would be fun for users to hunt around for that, like a kind of a little game, maybe. I don't know. Yes, we have so much to be creative with now, especially. And we just and I think I get bored a lot of the time by just cranking out the same stuff. Oh, I'm making a website. Let's do the links in the header. Let's do this. Let's make it 3 columns to show your 3 CTAs or USPs or whatever. Lucas says it can work as long as you keep in mind the bottom padding that's needed and how to work on different devices. Yes, so that is in reference to the navigation links at the bottom. Some of the newer CSS units can really help you there using, what is it? Not 100% VH, but there's another one. Is it SVH or something? Let's look up the CSS units for visible height in viewport. That was the one. It was SVH, wasn't it? And I also feel like because I haven't well, I've got to say I haven't really built many real projects in the past few years, but I feel like I haven't like really taken one to the next level yet, because my job hasn't really allowed me to, because my job has focused on talking about things that are website adjacent, like a deployment platform or a CMS or error monitoring. And so I feel like I've got a huge opportunity here to really like see what is actually possible in a browser and go really far. Viewport minimum, vmin. That's what you probably use for that main content, isn't it? Or DVH. I need to build a page that shows all the ways that the viewport can be calculated. Dynamic viewport, I hope that's the one. That's the one. So there we go. Right. Do we have any questions about Toddle that I probably cannot answer? Although Eric's asking me a question. So you can rebuild MDN in Toddle. Hard no. Although if they've got an API that you can just grab their content from, then why not? Just a casual weekend project. Just take me a couple of hours. No problem. So I have had an idea for another office hours thing today, which I want to talk about the temporal API, the new date thing coming out from JavaScript, because I hear that's going to be a hoot and it's going to help us work with dates a lot easier. So that will be fun. Waiting for it. When is it coming out? Temporal API, JavaScript. When is it going to be? It's limited availability still. Experimental. It's not going to tell us when we're doing it, when it's coming, is it? They're not going to tell us. Oh my gosh, they've got everything, components and everything, representable dates. Oh, it's going to be brilliant, but everything is not supported in any browser right now, apart from Firefox Nightly and Safari Tech Preview, and it's still experimental. Do we think this year we should do some sweepstakes on it? Do we think this year? Who knows? We got 9 minutes left. Do you know what? Why don't some of you come on stage and let's just have a chat? Although that's a little bit scary. That's like doing a Twitch call-in, anonymous Twitch call-in. Create small challenges live with 2 devs. That would be fun. In office hours, it could be. Like little Code Wars kind of thing. I like your suggestion. Pink Salt Pepper requested to speak. Speak to me, Pink Salt White Pepper.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can, loud and clear.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I thought that design stuff was dope. I think you should do that. I guess I had a question. I'm like way newer to toddle and development than, and I did most of Andreas's tutorials, and I found those like, easy when I'm being guided to, do this, trying to make my own project. I don't speak this aloud in my head of like, okay, I want it to look like this, and I need to make it do this. But when I'm noodling around toddle, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know like how to know what component to put or how to like put them together to do it. And I'm thinking, I jumped into toddle and I know it's like built on, HTML and CSS. And so I think I need to like go back, learn that, like really learn the fundamental language, but I don't know how to learn that in a way where I can learn it in like the toddle interface. Cause I assume if I start learning that, do tutorials for that, it's going to be more code based outside. So then I have to like figure out how to take that knowledge and put it back in toddle. I was wondering if anyone had like advice for how to learn more of those fundamental building blocks that I probably have missed because I jumped right into toddle, because I think I really need those to be able to start speaking the language and then like, with a language, like expressing myself in creating what I'm trying to create. Because I'm just getting stuck right now, not knowing how to like do anything.
That is a great question. Now, I understand the concern of if you learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript outside of toddle, then it's like you're not learning toddle at the same time. But I believe that if you know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you can code it or you can read the code, then that's going to help you automatically with toddle. So I actually would recommend you look at the free code camp courses for HTML and CSS and JavaScript. They're all free. And they take you through everything from semantic HTML to responsive design and how CSS works right from the ground up. And so you could sprinkle your building in toddle with learning some of that. So maybe go do a few modules of the HTML course and then build a little page just using HTML in toddle and understanding how that then is represented in a web browser. Because I think what a lot of people might miss when they're using, even when they're coding and they're coding React, for example, right? And it's in JSX syntax. What a lot of people sometimes, if they go straight into React, don't realize is that has to be turned into HTML, raw HTML and CSS and JavaScript in the compilation process in order for a browser to understand it. And so there are a lot of React developers who went straight into React who don't also understand the fundamentals of actually how something is presented in the HTML DOM and how the browser parses HTML as it's loaded to be able to add interactivity to it and space images out and then add CSS. So I don't think it's a waste of time for you to actually go right back to basics, but then combine that with solidifying that knowledge by building something in Toddle. I would like to thank you all for joining, and big round of applause for you all. Yes, pink salt, white pepper, all about learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it's great to have you here. I don't know if I end the stage session, will the chat go? Because you're all having a great chat. And I hope that pink salt, white pepper, you've been able to save all the links from the chat that you needed. And I'm going to see you here again, same time next week. And we will have another community showcase. We'll have some web news. We'll have a session from a Toddle engineer about the best way to manage variables inside your Toddle project. And I will see you back here soon. Thanks for coming. Round of applause button. Bye for now.